Okay, guys, kind of dragging this out a little bit, getting this thing going and broke in. We're getting close though. It did pass the water test, so there's no more water leaks. I actually rode it for about 45 minutes, and here's what it looked and sounded like running it on the ramp the first time. Okay, so all that sounds good there, but riding it, I'll tell you, it runs really rough and not usual rough for break-in. You know, break-in is normally rough, blowing out all the rebuild oil and lubricants, and plus, you know, you run a richer premix in addition to the oil injection, so I expect that a little bit of that, but it was just running way rougher. I couldn't find a smooth spot anywhere in it, and you know, you don't want to go over you know 2500 RPMs anyway that soon, but it was just running too rough for my comfort level. So I thought about it, and I think what was happening is I had too rich of premix. I think I had 40 to 1, so I ended up changing that to 60 to 1 like the manual says. And then also I readjusted my oil pump. It was a tick ahead, which means it was putting a little bit more oil than normal on idle and any RPM really. So I adjusted that back down. That's kind of a little bit tricky to do. I can get a mirror down in there where I can put my eyes on the lines perfectly and see where it is. So now it's spot on. So that's taken care of. And then the other thing that I think might be the biggest issue of all was the low speed screws, which are right here. They're on the bottom on these upside down white carbs, which is a pain in the neck. I tried to see if I could get to them without taking the carbs off, but I ended up having to drop the carbs off. It's no big deal, a little tedious. But the thing is that I put 82 low speed jets in these, and I think those are definitely on the larger side, because I didn't want to run any chance of leaning this out, but that may have been too conservative. 82 is pretty big. But in conjunction with that, I have the speed screws turned out 1.5. And I think just looking at the carb charts and stuff like that, that's also pretty generous. So I'm going to crank those in 1/4 of a turn to give me 1 1/4. And, you know, hopefully that'll prevent it from loading up so much, because I think that's what's happening. Like when it's running, it runs like when you pump the primer too many times on an old lawnmower and it struggles and stumbles until it smooths out. That's what it feels like riding it, but it never smoothed out. So I think something consistent is going on there. So going to make those 2 adjustments. And then the other thing we're doing today is there's a clip that goes on top of this to hold the air box on, and I didn't know anything about that until I tried to put that sucker on and it wouldn't stay, and I ended up having to zip tie it just to get it to the ramp. But this is what it looks like. I sourced this from Glenn Gregory. Thank you, Glenn, once again for getting me these kind of parts. So this bolts to the carburetor, and then that bolts to the bottom of the exhaust pipe, and then this clip comes over. So I'll be putting that on. So we are going to button all this up, put some 60 to 1 premix in it, and then we're going to take it back to the boat ramp for another swing.